Tonight's topic is going to be supplements. We'll be right back and we'll dive right into it. Good evening. It is the 20th of July, 2020, and I hope everybody is still doing well. Tonight's topic is going to be supplements. Supplements, yes. We're going to talk about, do you need them? Do you not? When do you use them? How much? Which ones? And yeah, that about covers it. Anyways, so I'm going to give you a little bit of background on my history with supplements. Just to shed a little bit of light. Might help you right off the start. Anyways, as many of you know who have watched these videos, I've been training for 43 years. And when I first started training, supplements were nowhere near what they are today. It's become a major, major business. Back then, you had to go to health food stores to get anything, and other than the health food industry, which is totally different from the supplement industry. They tend to push a lot of other very diverse products, along with your regular multivitamins, multiminerals, that type of thing. But they were not big into sports supplementation. It just wasn't a big thing. Although at some point, in my first couple of years, you started to see protein powders, but even those were a far cry from what we're dealing with now. The quality is so much better, right from its usability to its mixability. It's not even in the same league anymore. So, anyways, we're going to talk about how much they've evolved. I'm going to talk to you, as usual, from the standpoint of a natural lifter, a natural trainer, or a natural individual who wants to use supplementation. Why do we need supplementation? Well, there's two camps. Some say you don't, some say you do. I'm going to tell you that for the biggest part, I'm not 100% sure or 100% sold that you need them. And the reason why I say that is because I go back into my history. And my first 2 years of training, I literally took everything under the sun. Sorry about that. I gotta cut that phone off. Anyways, big mistake. My fault. Give me a half a second here. Sus is the fun of doing live shows. Anyways, it's all good. Yes, anyways, first 2-3 years, I was taking everything. Every vitamin, all of them, fat soluble, water soluble, desiccated liver tablets, lecithin, you name it. Anything I can get my hands on, I thought you needed it. I spent piles of money on supplementation. And then something happened about 3 to 4 years in, probably after my second year competing, and I just stopped taking supplements. The only thing I did on occasion was a little bit of protein here and there. It was never consistent. And I took water-soluble vitamins, meaning I took B complex and C, because they are water-soluble, and we'll get a little bit more into that a little later on. And I took a multivitamin, multimineral. That was it. That's all I took for the rest of my career, right up until I got sick in 2016. And that includes when I went back on stage at the age of 35 and won the Alberta Championships. I didn't take a single supplement other than the water-soluble vitamins. That was it. Do I regret that? Well, knowing what I know now, I think there's a little bit of regret, but I'm like I believe all good trainers should be. I'm still learning. I know a lot, and I know a lot more than most people. But I also understand that life is a learning process. And I'm still willing to try things just to see how they work. And just to throw this out there, another benefit of being a natural athlete is when you take certain supplements, how they react is a far stronger indicator with someone like yourself or myself than it is for someone who's taken performance enhancing drugs, because they can't tell the difference between, whether it's, the drugs they took that day, that week, how much. There's so many other variables in what they're doing that they could never track down a single normal supplement. So supplementation, if I was to say benefits anybody, it benefits the natural athlete more because we're not relying on artificial means to achieve our end goal. We're relying on our own blood and guts and nutrition and just common sense. So when we incorporate any type of supplementation, we get a better indicator, providing that we don't take everything under the sun and then we can never tell, which is the beginning of my how I want to talk about in this video. In order to decide whether you need supplementation or not, you need a plan. It's just like your training, like your diet. You need a plan. If you don't know that you're lacking in something, and as an athlete, other than a few main components, when it comes to all the other supplementation that people are taking, you need to have some way to derive or to figure out what it is, if anything, is lacking from your dietary intake. So how do you do that? Well, there's tons of programs out there now where you can literally put in put in what you're eating, and it will give you a breakdown of all your macros, your micronutrients, and then it's not that much work. As a matter of fact, most of them will even give you the percentage of what is required for an individual on any given day. Yes, it's not necessarily defined for a serious athlete, but the thing is, most of the micronutrients are it's not as big a factor when it comes to the micronutrients as it is to the macros, okay? Yes, you should make sure you're getting, the daily allowances, at least on an average basis. And the thing is, these programs will point out, it'll tell you, if you're not getting, this or that or whatever, and there's so many, right? And then if you do want to choose to supplement that, or you can choose to alter your diet. Now, somebody who's just basically maintaining their body weight or trying to gain a few pounds is in a different boat than someone who is out there and trying to lose weight, because they're generally speaking on some type of a caloric restricted diet. So if you're calorie restricted, it is possible that you're going to, be lacking in certain micronutrients. So then supplementation might be a little more important. But then again, it depends on how hard you're actually training. If you're just Joe or Jill average, I have to use both those terms, Joe and Jill average, and all you're doing is trying to get in better shape, you're not a high performance athlete. Unless you are absolutely lacking in a nutrient, I don't believe it's necessary to supplement it. I believe that 100%. 40-some years of training myself and training people tell me the same thing. It's not necessary. When would someone want to challenge that? Well, for some people, I mean, I do tout, the idea that, your psychological state of mind is a big player in where you get, where and how fast you get your results. So if it makes you feel better to do things, generally speaking, none of these supplementation are going to hurt you. but you're basically taking them in and excreting them and getting no benefit from them. So you're wasting a lot of money. So why wouldn't you want to allocate your resources and use that for something? If you really want to cover your bases, use it to, cover a macronutrient, or use it to cover getting some training expertise, something, or better quality food. Any of those things. That makes a lot more sense. So, talking about Joe and Jill average, I don't believe they need any type of supplementation at all. Yeah, I see no benefit at all. If you're eating a well-balanced diet and you're not calorically restricted, you should be just fine. Get your nutrients from your diet. If you have some type of a medically restricted diet, once again, look at what you're lacking in. If you're severely lacking in it, supplement it. Don't supplement everything. And the other thing too is, maybe I can use that as part of the wrap up, but don't take a whole bunch of things just because maybe you're lacking the 3 nutrients. Don't start taking them all at the same time. Take them in and see how your body responds. That's the other thing. When people start a supplementation program, they tend to make too many changes all at the same time, and they cannot tell which one is actually benefiting them, or if they're all benefiting or not. It's got to be almost like a trial and error, take something out, put something in type of thing approach. It'll become hit and miss at the beginning, but after you establish it, then you will know. Okay. So let's talk more about somebody with some serious goals. Now, you don't need to be, planning on getting on a stage. You might just be wanting to get, hit the best possible physical form that you can achieve. I can see supplementation, but then the question becomes, well, what do I need to supplement? Once again, get out a program. I'm going to tell you the program that I use. I'm not pushing this. I don't make any money off it. And you can get it as a free version. If you get MyFitnessPal, MyFitnessPal. Free version will give you all the information you'd ever want to know. And it's so easy. I mean, you can literally scan your food, scan the barcodes, and it'll actually give you all the information, put it right into your software for you. It is so easy, and it will give you the breakdown of your calories, your macronutrients, your micronutrients. Take a look at them. MyFitnessPal, great little free app. I believe it's available on both Android and iOS. And I use that. I use that for myself, and I use it for my clients because it's very effective and it's very accurate. So easy to use. So you take this piece of software and you use it only for what is needed. That needs to analyze what you're doing. Or if you're actually prepping for a show, set up your diet with it. It does have, many uses, but make sure, I'd rather take a student and be teaching them over the period of time they spend with me how to become more intuitive rather than always relying on some type of mechanical means to chart their progress. I do believe super serious athletes can benefit from having journals, but the general population, I want to take them from the guy or the girl on the street to the person that knows just by looking at food, how much they don't need to pull out their scales all the time so they can live a semi-normal life. They can say, this is, that's a couple 100 grams of rice. This is, 7 ounces of chicken, give or take. You know what? And in most cases, you can easily moderate your diet without ever taking out a weigh scale again down the road. That will happen over time. Okay. Anyways, getting back to the supplements. So if you're actually getting ready for a show, like I plan to get ready for a show again, I will definitely be supplementing. I learned a few things that I wish I'd learned a few years ago. I don't believe in a lot of supplementation. I believe in supplementing things that you seem to be lacking. And some people can even have it in their diet, but for some reason their body just doesn't seem to, or it's your body's supposed to be producing it naturally and it's not doing a good job. And therefore, supplementation could be a good thing. Okay? But take the software, get an assessment, You don't need to go to a doctor. You don't need to go get blood work done. We're not talking about anabolics here. Figure out where all your micronutrients are, and then decide, you know, and then look up the actual. I mean, I can't in one sitting here go through every micronutrient, tell you, the properties of it, what it does, the outcome of, insufficiencies, that type of thing. We can do that for individual ones further down the line, but for right now, we're going to cover this topic in generalities. Okay, so 2 supplements I do honestly believe in is a good protein supplement and creatine. Okay, I'm just going to put that on the side burner just for a second. Added to that, I will always take, when I'm in hard training, a good multivitamin, multimineral, and B complex and C. Why is that? I take the multivitamin, multimineral just as a safety net. It's a catch-all to make sure at least I'm getting a baseline of all the necessary nutrients in my system. That's all it is. Okay. I take B complex and C because they are the water soluble vitamins. So what does that mean? It means they're not stored in your fat. It means when you're sweating, if you're sweating a lot, especially summer training, there's a good chance that you could find yourself deficient in B complex and C. So you take B complex and C. Also, there seems to be, for those people, because many people these days are avoiding the use of red meat, many people are iron deficient. So get your iron tested. If you're not iron deficient, don't worry about it. If you are, take an iron supplement, but be careful. You can actually be toxic if you take in too much iron. So just, reasonable. Okay. So those are the, from the the vitamin mineral, portion of things that I would take. Okay. And let's talk about my experiences with proteins. Okay. So going back a couple of videos, I talked to people about, my experiences of getting sick and sitting there at 169 pounds for 2 years and not having a muscle left in my body and looking like a scarecrow. And it was terrible. And, I got out and I didn't believe I could ever recover physically and look anything like I used to look. Going into the hospital at 230 pounds, I just thought that was just lost. It was never going to happen again. So when I started training, when I got out of hospital, second time, so that was a total of 8 months hospitalized, another year and a half approximately of sitting in a chair at home with tubes hanging out of me. I decided to go back in the gym and start training. And after a month, I realized that I could train and my body did respond, and I developed more of an appetite. Then I decided I'm going to do some supplementation. So I did, as I already mentioned, I took B complex and C and multivitamin, and I did some homework, and I decided I'd settle on a good protein supplement. I took one that actually had some extra calories to it, not necessarily a weight gainer, but it wasn't, it was definitely a pure whey isolate, which is, I believe, the only way to go. Pure whey isolate. Okay. And I started taking creatine. Not huge amounts of anything. Matter of fact, the absolute minimums. And as I told people before, I went from 169 pounds. Inside of 3 months, I was back up to 205 pounds. And through that 35 pounds of transition, I dropped body fat as well. So those are good muscle gains. Totally, you'll never get that if you've never had the muscle before. That's a lot of muscle memory. But just the fact that I was able to bring it back on without resorting to anabolic agents of any sort, which nobody would have faulted me for, trying to get myself physically back, because that's what anabolics were developed for the medical industry, for people with problems like that. But I chose to go the natural route. And the supplementation is definitely going to, was a benefit. So here's my thoughts on protein. I do believe that if you're taking a good whey isolate, it's the only way to go. I don't believe that you should, unless you're an extremely hard gainer, you stay away from the weight gain formulas. All there is a lot of extra sugar, a lot of extra sugar tied in there. Okay, it's not doing you any good. It's going into that extra bulking phase. I don't believe in bulking. Uh, I believe at any given point, you should at least be as a natural athlete, because you're not, if you're a drugged athlete, you can tend to have a little harder look year round without a whole lot of effort, even though many of them don't. But for the very motivated individuals who are natural athletes, keeping yourself within a range where you still have, at least kind of on the borderline, at least, of having abdominal definition, so you definitely will have, some overall, body muscularity showing. That's where you want to maintain yourself. You don't want to have these huge fluctuations, up and down. I believe if you went to there's definitely different types of proteins that will be somewhere in the middle, and then there's some very lean protein sources out there right now. We are currently working on producing our own brand, and I'm hoping by September, October, we'll have our own line of supplements, which will be limited to probably just protein, creatine, and possibly vitamin mineral line. And that's it. Anyways, talking a little bit more about protein itself. So I do believe, for example, for me, for many individuals, in order to consume proper amount of calories, it's almost impossible to eat it on a clean diet and get the protein requirement. No, it's not tough to do it if you decide you're going to have all your meals over at McDonald's. Considering you can sit down with a Big Mac and swallow 1,000 calories in no time at all, no, it wouldn't be too tough. But if you want to eat a reasonably clean diet and get your protein requirement, I believe it's necessary to take a good protein supplement. Supplement 2 meals a day, maybe with a protein supplement, and mix that with juice or milk. I think you should lean a little bit more towards lean milk, to be honest with you. Even though I'm not a big fan of dairy, I do believe it'll blur anybody's definition. I think most people will realize if they take dairy completely out of their diet and keep everything else the same, they will get harder looking. I've seen it myself. I've seen it in students. As far as I'm concerned, it's a fact. Take dairy out. It's not just about the fat content either. Okay. So, anyways, but you can do a little bit of mixture of some juice. But I mean, they have so many flavors now. They're all stevia sweetened and that, so they don't have extra calories. They're not just sweetened with simple carbohydrate. The carbohydrate content is relatively moderate. So they're a good quality product. So many different flavors to suit everybody. And you can literally mix them in water and have a decent flavor and enjoy it. That was never the case in my day, let me tell you. The stuff we had was horrid. It tasted like crap, and you had to choke it down. And that was after it was blended in a blender. Anyways, that aside. So let's talk about, let's go into creatine. Creatine was a pleasant surprise. I can honestly say I've never taken a supplement where I knew 100% that stuff worked. And I've tried 2 or 3 different brands, creatine, and you want to get it in the micronized and the monohydrate form. Okay, so it mixes very well. And I can tell you that I never even, throughout that whole process when I was, getting out of the hospital, I never went over 1 serving of 5 milligrams, which is very minor because, as I get more into the studies about it, they're actually, although you can reach, because what creatine does, it'll help actually, retain water within the muscle. It'll basically create a bigger, fuller looking muscle and also help with your strength increases as well. And these are all true. They've proven to be factually true with my training. And I endorse it 100%. But I never even went, utilized it to its, full benefit. Because in true creatine loading, generally speaking, you're going to be, depending on where your body weight is, you're going to be anywhere from 20 to 30 grams a day. And from the studies I've looked at, it's entirely safe. Unless you have a propensity for possible kidney or liver disease in the family, then you might want to talk with your doctor or have it looked at or have your values taken every once in a while. but it's not a banned substance. It's not an anabolic in any way. But just to be safe. But it works. It works amazingly. I can tell you that over the 4 months here that we were due to COVID and all the gyms are shut down, I didn't train at all, and I stopped taking my creatine. And now I realize, just how much an important factor, how fuller it made my muscles feel, and therefore helped my mental state of mind as well. And now I'm just back on, but I hadn't even gone into creatine loading at all. So I basically started that this week. The idea of creatine loading is basically to maximize, get your muscles saturated over a 5 to 7 day period. And for me, based on my body weight, which right now is 210 pounds, is to basically probably be around 28 to 30 grams a day, take it over several intervals, both before and after a workout. I also mix it with my fluid during my workout. And after about 5 to 7 days, then you can bring it down to 5 to 10 grams a day as maintenance. And without a doubt, I endorse the use of creatine. Matter of fact, I emphasize the use of creatine in your diet. Even if you have a great, well-balanced diet, and I'm talking mainly about serious athletes at this point. Do I believe you need it as a person on the street just wanting to make their body look a little bit better? Maybe not necessarily, but if you would like to get into that fairly lean stage, I think you might appreciate it. So, but I don't know if I would go the full loading way, because you can still get maximum saturation, but it'll take a longer period of time. So I might moderate that and take 10 to 15 milligrams a day, and over the course of less than a month, you'll probably reach saturation, and then you go back down to about 5 milligrams per day. Anyways, creatine and protein, top of the list. And obviously you got to combine that with a good, well-balanced diet. The proper macronutrient combination for yourself. Also, the use of creatine and protein, very, very instrumental when if you decide to go down the high intensity training avenue. I believe it helps with recovery. Studies have shown that it helps with recovery as well. And when you're a natural athlete, you have to use everything that's at your disposal. You want to maximize everything that you have. Don't go crazy. Don't buy every supplement on the shelf. Everything is about utilizing the resources you have. So if you have X amount of dollars, and you have this goal in mind, say, okay, you know what? These are the supplements I need. Okay, then I have this much left over. Okay, I'm going to use that for better quality of food, or getting involved with a better trainer or a trainer, or whatever the case might be. Utilize your resources properly and have a plan. Okay, don't do any of this without a breakdown of where you're actually sitting in the first place. Okay? So sit down, get the MyFitnessPal app. It's free. It's free for everybody. Go out and get it. Track your stuff for 2 weeks. See where you're sitting. And then if you actually are really lacking in the nutrient, go and get it, but don't go crazy on it. I endorse B complex and C because they're water soluble. And if you tend to sweat a lot, good thing to have. Okay. And other than that, like I said, for the hard training athlete, a protein and creatine supplement. That is it. Anything else you're taking, I've seen people in videos and they're talking about it, and they have their whole table lined up with stuff, and I'm thinking, what are you doing? Like, you're just going at this as many people do in life. They throw everything at the wall and hopefully something sticks. But that's not the best way to do it. Have a plan. It's no different. Have a supplement plan, have a dietary plan, have a training plan, have a psychological approach. If you do all those things, I guarantee you, if you do all those things, you don't kid yourself, you will get results. You will get better results than you ever thought possible without resorting to drugs, just staying natural, being true to yourself, doing things the right way. Anyways, I hope that helps. Once again, my name is Perry, and I am with Bull Fierce Training in conjunction with Bull Fierce Media. I hope that we can get some individuals involved in some of our talks. It looks like we do have an individual lined up for our Friday show, which is wonderful. I can't wait to interview him. A gentleman I met talking online has a quite an interesting story. He's some great progress, and I look forward to that conversation. I hope some people will join us and get right into it. For now, take care of yourself. God bless, and we'll see you next time.